Cloudcast Media. Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
Hello all, I'm Dr. Mark Milliron, President of National University and the special guest host of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, the nation's longest-running community podcast, now in its 18th year. Drew Schlosberg is on vacation, but I'm joined today by a special co-host as well, Dr. Nancy Rohland Heinrich from National University. Hello, Nancy.
Great to be here today and a pleasure to help co-host the podcast.
So we are pleased to have in our studio today, Dr. Cristina Versari, President and founder of San Diego University for Integrative Studies. How are you doing, Dr. Versari?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Good show. Are you okay if I call you Christine today?
Yes, please.
Okay, let's jump in. Tell us a little bit about your background. What brought you to this work?
I was an athlete myself, as a swimmer, and I decided that I wanted to help athletes to improve their performance in other areas related to their athletic career. So I came to San Diego, and I got a doctorate degree in sports psychology right here in Scripps Ranch at a university that used to be here, the United States International University. Okay. And immediately after, I have a master's and a doctorate degree in sports psychology. And following that, I started working with the NBA. I was in charge of the NBA education and career development program. So those were many years of helping all the players on all the NBA teams to prepare for a second career. And that included to get their education, complete their degrees, and plan for those that already had degree. They were planning a business or what they're going to do after their NBA career ended.
People don't realize how much work that is to actually build that community of practice, because those athletes are so focused on their day-to-day work within the NBA. Thinking about what's next is not top of mind. Talk about the importance of creating those kinds of scaffolds to build and building those connections, because those careers are generally 10 to 15 years long, and then they have the rest of their lives they have to think about.
And the ironic part of that is that for a player to stay in the league, they have to only focus on their active career. Right. They have to block out any distractions, any thoughts about what's going to happen after that. So the focus during the active career is on that career. It's not going back to school or what you're going to do later. And that's not even welcomed by coaches and other professionals, because the current employer is not responsible for what's going to happen to the employee once they're no longer there. So that's not their problem. But it is the player's responsibility to plan for that. And the best time to start planning is on day one. Yeah. So we started working with the players during the rookie transition program. Yeah, we always had a long session, helping the players to start organizing and planning for what they're going to do next. And players, they have done that, have done very well after their playing career ended. And some have not done very well because they had no plan. Yeah. So some players, they don't plan at all. And at the end of the active career, they continue to spend the same that they were spending before. And at one point, they run out of money. So I witnessed, unfortunately, players that have lost everything.
Yeah. I mean, the challenging thing, we learned that in the world of higher education. I mean, you know this from your work in this world. The number one reason people leave higher education is not academics. It actually is life and logistics and psychosocial, like the mindset around it. And part of the challenge is the scaffolds that are around them. Like, who are the people who are around them, kind of guiding them and or not guiding them, like sometimes taking them in negative directions. Talk about the importance, when you were doing that work with the MBA, and maybe even some of your broader work in helping people, one, get exposure maybe to folks just like them who've transitioned into post retirement, like having those players come back and talk to those players who are just beginning to say, here's what I wish I knew when I started, like, because those are often the best connections, right?
The MBA education career development program was created exactly that way. Other than myself, everybody else that worked with me, they were retired players.
Wow.
And the program was created by Tom Satch Sanders, an old-timer NBA player, because after he retired, he started noticing all the problems that players were having with their transition to life after basketball. So he created the program many years ago. But that was the idea. They all my staff were retired players. They came back and talked to the players and said, this is what I wish I had done during my active career. And I hope you do that. And the players having nothing to lose. The program is provided at no cost to them. They're already paid for their membership to the Players Association. And you're talking about the connections that people have. Those are really critical during the transition process for any athlete, any professional athlete. Is your network and it's your support system. So professional athletes can adjust very well to career or into life after sports if they have a good education, a solid education, and they have a good support system. And it takes them between 4 and 8 years to adjust to life after sports. So it's a long process. It's not easy. But the players that had a solid education and had a good support system have adjusted very well. So the education I put a lot of emphasis on the education because many professional athletes went to college for a few years studying areas that were not really directed to a certain career, like general studies. I had a player that had a degree in general studies. I said, what are you going to do with that? So once they retired, they need something that makes them employable if they need that.
Nancy, you want to jump in?
Sure. I just wanted to ask about degree attainment of players while they're in the NBA, because a lot of players that are in the NBA may not have completed their education, because they turned pro. And so if you could talk to us a little about how that educational completion and degree attainment makes a difference as far as their post-career as well.
They have a busy day job, but this is going to set them up for the next phase, right?
Exactly. Most people go to college to get an education to advance professionally and financially so they can get a better job. They can make more money. When a player is making the salary that they make, that's not a motivation. So what I've learned from working with the players, and that was my tool that I've used, most players want to get their degrees because they promised their moms. And they're going to be the first one in their families to get a degree. So that was the motivation. And I have a player, and this is, I have his permission to talk about this. We have given many interviews together in the past. He had 2 years left to complete his degree, and it took him 10 years to finish 2 years. And he never gave up. And he said, I want to have a diploma on the wall so I can tell my son that he needs to go to college. And he said, I'm never going to need this diploma or degree, but I want to do for my son. Yeah. So he did. Took 10 years. He never anticipated the life situations would be what they were after he retired. And at one point, he had to work. He had to get a job, and he got a coaching job. And he said to me, I never thought that I would need my degree, but I'm so glad I have one. I would not be employable today, and I could never have a coaching job at a community college if I didn't have the degree. So the degree is really important, and you don't know and nobody can take that away from you. They can lose the money, but they can't take away their education. And I know many players that have relied on that to have a life and make a living after retirement. And one of the many players don't want to finish at some, again, financially doesn't make sense, but they want to do something. So I have created a university in San Diego, the San Diego University for Integrative Studies, with that in mind, to create short-term programs for players to become employable. So coaching, certificating coaching, certificating marketing, communications, because a lot of them, they want to go into broadcasting. So those are short-term training that teach them skills that can make them employable if they choose to have a career after.
I love it. I love
sports.
it. So after the break, we're going to dive more into the university and the kind of programs you're pulling together and how. You've been listening to the Spotlight on the Community Show with Christine from the San Diego University of Integrated Studies, Cristina Versari. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, so we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
We are back with Cristina Versari, President and Founder of San Diego University for Integrative Studies. My name is Dr. Mark Milliron, President of National University, and the special guest host of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, the nation's longest-running community podcast, now in its 18th year. The show is brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, that for more than 6 decades has been supporting key causes and initiatives in San Diego County, from food insecurity to literacy to arts education and beyond. Drew Schlosberg is on vacation, but I am joined today in the studio by a co-host, Dr. Nancy Rohland Heinrich from National University. Nancy.
So glad to be here today and enjoyed listening to the first half of the show, Cristina, and looking forward to the next discussion.
So we want to dive in, Christine, to your founding of the San Diego University for Integrative Studies.
Yes. After working with NBA players for many years, I realized that what I had learned in graduate school came from textbooks, and a lot of that information did not connect with the reality of the lives of professional athletes and what I was hearing and learning from the players. And I had accumulated so much knowledge, so much information about the players that I wanted to train other professionals to be able to learn those skills to better serve that population. The professional athlete population is kind of neglected because there is no need to study them. Research is funded to solve a problem, of certain
scale.
Certain levels of the population. And nobody perceives a professional NBA player as someone that has problems because they're wealthy, they're healthy. What problem could they have? And everybody has problems. And the players have very unique problems because of that, because of the nature of their work, the nature of the celebrity status. They all have problems. They have no one to talk to. There's very few people that they can trust. So the sports psychologist is the person that they can go to So I wanted to create a training program for them. And I opened a university. We created a sports psychology program. We had the founders of the field of sports psychology teaching with us, Dr. Bruce Ogilvie, Dr. Robert Neidefer, psychologists from the Olympic Training Center, Dr. Jim Bowman. So we had the top people in the field. And in a very short time, we became well-known internationally for the training. And today we have a larger number of professional sports psychologists that are leading in the United States and doing incredible work, working for the NFL, for the NBA, for hockey, the Professional Hockey League. And they all got trained at our school. So that was the main purpose. And the other reason was to provide short-term training programs for the NBA players. Because they said, including players that already had degrees.
Right.
A lot of players already had a degree. I said, but my degree is not related to what I want to do. I want to do coaching. I want to do broadcasting. I wanted to get some training in that area. So I created those short-term programs 25 years ago to help players
No, I love it.
get a short-term training and become employable.
And I know that when you're National University has a connection to this because we were founded 53 years ago around the idea of meeting the needs of non-traditional working and military students. 100% of our students are non-traditional working and or military. And our focus is providing, especially for that working parent, I would call our students Anders because they're parents and students. They are service members and students. They are working professionals at high levels or entry levels and their students. And making sure you can blend, a holistic, we call it whole human perspective is part of what has been part of our DNA for a long time. You've embraced a very similar approach. Like you're very focused on mind, body, spirit and kind of an integrated connection, hence the name of your university. Talk a bit about the importance of that mind, body, spirit connection.
That concept came from another school that I used to work with at the University for Humanistic Studies, and I was exposed to a lot of transpersonal psychology programs, spiritual psychology, and I've learned how important that was to make that connection between the mind, body, and the spirit. And in working with athletes, I've always asked them a question. What was going on at the time, around you at the time when you won the gold medal in the Olympics? And they would tell me, and then I would ask another player, like an NBA player, what was happening in your life around the time when your team, when you were doing your best? What happened? And the answers were very much the same. It was very interesting. I still ask my players. I work with professional lacrosse players now. I always ask that question. And what they say is everything in my life was going very well. There's an Olympic athlete there was the first time that I asked this question. He said, I was in peace with God. I had a great relationship with my coach. I had just met my wife, and I was in love. My relationship was perfect. So those are three, areas of their life. So that it's integrated. We can't separate the individual and only focus on their behavior. And that's how the traditional sports psychology was developed. Because it came out of the physical education and exercise science department. So they only focus on the behavior. So, okay, let's teach you something that will change this behavior and you can perform better. It might change for a little bit, but it won't stick. Because you have to know what's the cause, what happened, why are you behaving this way, and what else is going on in your life that is impacting that performance. So everything affects everything else. And so we can't separate the spirituality, the relationships.
Or even like basic needs. We found in our world, it's really hard for somebody to study if they're hungry, right?
Exactly.
It's the idea of housing insecurity, food insecurity, transportation. And once you kind of realize the whole human experience has to be taken into account, you can support the learner as they're doing that work. And it feels like that's been at the core of your philosophy from the beginning.
I created the program from thinking like, what are the areas that the players needed? And I came up with those areas. I created a course in each one of those, including nutrition. We have a class for graduate students in nutrition lifestyle management. When players retired, there's no detraining program. They can't continue to eat the same thing that they were eating when they're practicing several hours a day. And we've seen a lot of players, they gain a lot of weight. There's no detraining. So the nutrition part is critical. Everything that you put into your body is going to impact how you feel every single day. So our approach is integrative and it's holistic.
Yeah.
So you have to include the spirituality. Whatever people believe in, God or whatever their version of that is going to help them improve their performance. Their relationships are critical. Every player that I've ever worked with, that was the number one issue they had. I never learned that in graduate school. Nobody ever taught me that.
No, because we actually like to segment those things, and we try to teach them like they're. And when you realize that actually mind, body, spirit is that interconnection actually gives power to people. When it's all in balance, it's amazing. Like you said, they're performing at their best when all that is like usually. It's not always the case, but 9 times out of 10, when that stuff's in line, is when they're absolutely at their best.
Exactly, and that's what I've learned from them. I never learned that from textbooks. Yeah. So I wanted to provide that kind of training to professionals that would be able to better serve professional athletes and elite athletes in working with them.
Oh, I love it. Nancy?
I was going to ask, in your organization, are you also looking at some of those other athletes, the future college athletes, the outstanding high school performers, and also working with coaches for either secondary education or community sports? Because sports has become such an obsession and such a healthy opportunity for participation, but also there's a lot of dynamics with that. So what are you doing as far as in areas outside of professional sports?
Many of our graduates do work with high school level athletes, college athletes. And I personally currently have 2 clients. They're 12 years old. And I was approached by the parents. One is a lacrosse player, the other is a soccer player. And I don't specialize in working with young athletes, but this was something very new, very interesting, and I have been working with younger athletes. And their main issues are social media anxiety, and which is a new area of concern. So, we do have several graduates that work with those other levels, and any of us is qualified and trained to do that.
It is such an odd world for some of those rising athletes, because with the rise of social media, they're out loud in a way that they weren't before, and they face scrutiny and or abuse and or praise, like in the social media world. And then you add that to the pressure of that impacting the NIL rules. So now they can, those star college athletes can suddenly make a lot of money with NIL. And it just adds a whole level of pressure to those folks. What are you hearing about how that's going to play out?
I think all the organizations are very aware that players need some support.
Yeah.
And as you know, the NBA now requires that all teams have a psychologist. The NFL is requiring the teams have a psychologist. Major League Baseball, all teams have psychologists. So I think, at the college level, they have entire departments for the psychologists now. 25 years ago, that was unheard of. There wasn't anything other than the coaching staff and the medical staff. But now they have a team for that. So I think the time has come that they realize that you can't separate the areas, not just your physical performance, it's also your mind. It has which we have known for a long time, but I think everybody has realized that. It's critical. And also mental health issues.
Yeah.
You never heard about athletes years ago mentioning that they had suffered from depression. That would be used
anxiety,
against them.
like all that. They wouldn't talk out loud about it.
And why wouldn't they? The the athlete population is a segment of the general population. So anything that's happening with the general population, you're going to find in sports.
Yeah.
But we never heard of that before. And now it's becoming acceptable to talk about mental health issues. So I think the players now have more support than they ever had, and they can talk more freely about issues and concerns that they have without being criticized or that being used against them.
No, it's actually a much better world. It's a much better world for folks who are trying to, one, make a difference with those folks, but also just for those athletes to be able to live well and perform well at the same time if they're going to be doing it. So 2 final questions for you. One is I'd love to hear a bit more, and I know our listeners would want to hear a bit more about your organization's community outreach efforts. Give us an idea of the kind of things that you're involved with.
We are we strongly believe in community service. Whatever we do at our organization, we want to give back to the community. So we have several events throughout the year. We host the Brazilian consulate from Los Angeles. They use our institution for that a few times a year to provide service to people from the community. Yeah. We do a toy drive once a year. We sponsor an orphanage in Brazil.
Wow.
I grew up in Brazil, and every time I go there, I visit the orphanage. And one of the visits, they were telling me the stories that they're having problems. The children, when they're 18, they're on their own. So they just have to leave the place. They don't have and have no place to go, and they are unemployable because they don't have a college education. And I said, what if we taught them English as a second language? Would that help them? Say, oh, they would get a great job. They can work at hotels. They can work in the tourism industry. So we provide English as a second language classes to the children in the orphanage for that one reason. But a few months after we started, we heard from them that those children have now higher self-esteem. They're the star in their schools because now they're the only children in their schools that know English as a second language. So they became, instead of being the kids from the orphanage, now they're their stars.
Wow.
And it has helped them. They increased their grades in school. They felt better about themselves. And so it has helped them in many other areas. So that's a huge project that we have been sponsoring for many years. We also have, in addition to the university, we have an English as a second language school in the same space. And we have students from 52 different countries that come to San Diego to learn English and continue their education, get an advanced degree, or go back to their home country and do their business and get a job. So we have those students go to nursing homes. So we set up on Fridays, they call happy hour at nursing homes. And we have a group of students that go visit the elderly there in nursing homes because it's a huge problem that we have in our community and we have in the entire country. Some of those people do not get any visitors the entire year. It's a very high rate of depression. And the students can learn so much from them. These are people that had careers, they had jobs, they had business. So they share their experience with the students. And the students they learn from them, and they have somebody visiting them once a week.
Yeah, it's powerful outreach and really interesting kind of connections. Cristina, how can folks find out more about your organization and the work you're doing?
They can visit our website at San Diego University for Integrative Studies, SDUIS.edu, or they can contact us at 619-297-1999, or they can contact me directly at 858-254-0303.
Okay, you got the open call. Well, that wraps our show for today. I'd like to thank Dr. Cristina Versari, President and Founder of San Diego University for Integrative Studies. Also like to thank my co-host, Dr. Nancy Rohland Heinrich from National University. I'm Dr. Mark Milliron, President of National University and celebrity guest host of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community show. We hope you enjoyed the conversations.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
Cloudcast Media.